In this video, we'll meet someone who is the chairman of the EEI Supplier Diversity Committee, worked for utility for over 25 years, and today relaxes in his Zen Garden. Now, if this sounds interesting, you need to definitely keep watching this video. Hello, this is Dan Terrence, and welcome to Let's Meet a Franklinite. Today's guest is Mark Sebree. He is AM and Franklin's Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Dan.
Now, a Zen Garden. You know, I don't think you quite called it that, so I have to blame myself. But what do you do there to relax?
So basically, behind our house, we have about a half acre of ground with 2 huge oak trees. So what I did in order to keep good grass back there is I tore all the grass out and I put some hardscapes in and made me a nice neighborhood park or garden for us to reflect.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just as sort of a relaxation.
I heard getting back to nature is the way to go to take us down a notch, from our stressful lives.
Yes, that's exactly.
So, as Director of Diversity and Inclusion, let's just go back a step to your days in utilities. I think you actually started in energy efficiency.
Yes, that's correct. I started about the time when demand-side management was just getting going, and so we did a lot of energy efficiency type projects such as home audits and using a blower door and all that sort of thing. So that's how I got started. And so it's kind of neat when I came to Franklin, I sort of get to revisit some of the things that I did earlier from a different perspective.
So how did you get into diversity and inclusion? And you did that for almost 10 years, I think, at the utility. Yeah,
so I got in that area because we had a champion within our supply chain, our director, that was really attuned to the needs of supplier diversity, and we had none at the utility at the time. So I was working hard on a project, and I think they noticed my work, and they asked me to head up the whole supplier diversity initiative.
Nice. At Franklin, we've always believed strongly in diversity and inclusion, but I think until you actually make that investment and have someone in charge of it and holding people accountable for goals and activities, it doesn't really happen.
That's exactly right, and that's something that I really applaud the leadership here at Franklin for, because it really does take an investment, which means there's a budget, there's a person that owns the process, so I appreciate being that person here, but also there's goals and there's tracking and that sort of thing, because one mentor of mine always says, what doesn't get tracked doesn't get done,
right?
And so we feel here that that's important to really make sure that we're showing the accomplishments that we're doing.
Now, I think it's important also to kind of identify or define, what diversity is and what inclusion. We always just kind of throw it together and say, here's someone in charge of D&I. And people think, well, that's a great thing. I'm glad they're doing it. But what is it?
Good question. Yeah, that's a very good question. So diversity really is sort of a description of people's differences, and it's not just race or gender, but it could be learning styles, communication styles. Maybe you have a person that's more technical, and another one that's more, business oriented. That's a diverse. Those are 2 diverse backgrounds. So diversity really is leveraging the differences that we all bring to the table.
Right. I think we all have when you naturally meet people, you're looking for commonalities. We find commonalities, or say, oh man, I like that person because they bowl like I do, or something. But it's the appreciation of differences that can actually make I think, better decision making and have an organization to provide services that are similar to those that are participants in our programs.
Exactly.
Because a utility has a pretty diverse group of customers.
Yes.
Right?
In fact, I would say utilities have probably the most diverse groups of customers out there, so it really helps us when we have a diverse team tackling those problems or issues that maybe we have in the field, and so it's really leveraging the strength of those diverse candidates or diverse employees that we have here at Franklin Energy.
And so then I think the next step then is kind of inclusion. So how do you define inclusion?
So inclusion is really that leveraging, or it's taking the next step of really making diversity a leverage point for us, differentiating us from our competitors, for instance. If we are using inclusion, that means that we're going to actively seek to leverage the differences that we may have to find solutions to perhaps issues or topics that we're addressing.
Great. Going back to when I was looking at your kind of resume coming in today, just get me reacquainted to some of your background, I was surprised to see that you were actually a music major. So that must also be kind of a passion, or it has been in your life. Yeah,
it was a passion. I still love classical music. I was actually a classically trained violist. Wow. Viola is one instrument it's in the family of the string instruments. It's one step larger than the violin. So I was a professional violist, played in symphonic orchestras. Actually played up here in Wisconsin when I was 15.
Oh, really?
And in what was it? La Crosse, I believe it was, and also where's Land's End located? in that city.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have a lot of history in the music background. It's something that I just listen to now. I don't actually play right now. But
it's too bad. In a previous episode, we had the Fret Ed band in, and they brought their guitars. That we could have had you,
right.
Put it on the plane and
we'll
brought
see.
it. Next episode, perhaps.
Right. Possibly, yeah.
So you're kind of looking forward to Franklin's diversity and inclusion plan. You've now been with us for all of 18, or 9 months of 18 or so, and here early in 19. What is the next steps for Franklin, and what kind of is your plan working with our HR department and managers really across our company to bring diversity and inclusion to life here at Franklin?
Yes, I appreciate that question. So in the first few months, we really were doing a lot of internal and external messaging about our diversity and inclusion. So now what we're doing is standing up the walls, if you will, of the frame. And so we'll be doing things such as putting together a diversity and inclusion outreach team that's across Franklin Energy, both wide and deep, so that we're looking at employees maybe that work in the field as part of the team, also in our executive management group.
So what is Franklin, say 2-3 years from now, after you've had a little more time to bring us along, what does the story look like, or what does Franklin look like if it's really embraced and successful diversity and inclusion? What things that could we look for and say, yep, that's a maybe not a metric, but that's a story around a successful program?
Yeah, I'd say in 2 or 3 years, what I'd like for Franklin to be recognized as is not just a company that provides energy efficiency solutions for all, but also that has diversity and inclusion woven throughout. It's such as a tapestry, so that when you look at Franklin Energy, everything that we do automatically has a diverse and inclusive environment around it. So I want us to really be an example for both our contractors and other companies to show that diversity and inclusion is good for a company, and it really helps both our employees but our customers as well. Yeah,
and I think when I asked that question, I actually said program, but I believe what you just said about the tapestry, and that it becomes who you are.
Exactly.
That is when it's successful, because it becomes part of our DNA.
Yeah.
And that we appreciate the differences in others, because we can come to better, more well-rounded decision-making around solutions and how we interact with clients and how we provide our solutions. And I've read a lot of good things about people who have really, part of their DNA perform better than firms that don't.
Yeah, I mean, you'll find that actually the bottom line is stronger with those companies. They find better solutions, stronger solutions, because they have a very diverse focus looking at those problems maybe they're trying to overcome. And so again, what I see for Franklin Energy is, we're already known as the experts, so now we're going to be known as the experts both in energy efficiency but also an inclusive organization of expertise.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, and let's meet at Franklinite.
Thank you.